Today it's a hike and talk, a walk and talk. We're still at Levasseur. I call it my favorite lake. I don't know if that's entirely true. It's true. It's my favorite lake. It's not a swimming lake. Lake Superior is my favorite lake for swimming. Even though I haven't swam in it in, what, 2 years? 2026. Yeah, the last time I was in it was 2024. So, yes. Yes. Come on, Winnie. Winnie the Pooch. Winnie. All right. So, oh, see? Lake Levasseur. Isn't that pretty? So, what do you want to see that? You don't want my big face. You want the trail and big. There we go. Come on, Win-Win! Win! Oh my gosh, I might have to go back for her. I don't know what I'm going to talk about. I had something that I was ready to talk about, and then I just got all vulnerable. Just like, well, I was just crying. Come on, Winnie. Come. Come on, girlfriend. Come on. Look, you want to see her? Look at her. Look. Come on, girlfriend. What are you doing? Holy cow. You're the star of the show. Yes, you are. Come on, let's go. All right. So, we're I mean, I'm back on incoherence, right? What doesn't close? Disembodied knowledge, fragmented systems, fragmented thinking, fragmented people. W. Edwards Deming. Not a lot of people in the U.S. know about Deming. Well, after World War II, so he's known as the father of quality control. After World War II, he was brought on by Japan to rebuild. And by the 1980s, Toyota was the number one car manufacturer in the world because they were implementing systems level thinking. Deming, a few profound quotes, realizations from him is, a good person loses to a bad system every time. We get what the system delivers. When there's a breakdown, 94% in his estimate of breakdowns are systemic. When we blame an individual, we have a 6% or less chance of being correct. Had to call the dog again. 6% or less chance of being correct. So, when there's a breakdown, look to the system, right? Look to the system and find out how is the system generating those results, because there's an upstream invariant. He was really keen on standard operational definitions. Come on. Standard operational definitions. Because a lot of times people are talking past each other. They don't recognize the operational definitions of the words that are being used. And so a lot of disagreement, a lot of waste comes down to that. That's why the whole conversation about AI consciousness does not get anywhere. Because consciousness as a word, look it up in Merriam-Webster's dictionary. It breaks every grammatical rule. Circular logic, it doesn't choose a category. Right away it says the quality or state. Well, you don't get to be both. One or the other. Choose a lane. There we go. Go! Keep going. Keep going! She cannot. It's not likely. She's hiked out. We only went for one little hike today. Keep going. So, consciousness. It's collapsed categories. It attempts to put numerous different operations inside one little word. And so some people, when they say the word consciousness, they're talking about the ground, like within which it all occurs, Some people, when they say consciousness, they're talking about, like, can you address that? Is that something that has come to your attention before? Sometimes they're talking about a wakeful state. Sometimes they're like, it's just all over the place. And so Without standard operational definitions, we cannot have a coherent conversation. It's fragmented. It's all over the place. Also, that's stable datum, right? Stable data points that people are in agreement upon and can understand together. It just eliminates waste. That's the key. It eliminates waste. So Deming, when he was brought in to Japan, one of my mentors, Marshall, who's brilliant. He was mentored a decade each by Buckminster Fuller and W. Edwards Deming. I was really blessed to work with him. And when he met Deming, Deming said, hey, what's more important to learning? Is it theory or experience? And Marshall, as the way he told the story, he said he was kind of being a smartass, but he was also saying it like it was. He said, well, experience, it ought to be. It's the most expensive. And Deming, I guess, slammed his fist down on the table and said, nonsense. If experience is the most important thing to learning, why isn't Ford making the best cars? They have the most experience. Touche, right? And there in the 1980s, Ford was at risk of bankruptcy. And Toyota, one of the newest car manufacturers in the world, was the top rated. How'd that happen? And so Deming said, it's theory plus experience, which generates profound results. You can have, if your idea of how you're going to win friends and influence people is to go around telling people what to do and what's wrong with them, well, you can have all the experience in the world. Good luck winning friends and influencing people, right? So it's all about, and then what's shifted for me in that is it's the upstream invariant. It's having made the upstream invariant addressable such that we can operate according to it. And then when we get experience operating through and with the upstream invariant, what is the upstream invariant? It's like the principle that's at play that is organizing what is occurring. When you understand how to use fire, you can get better results than when you don't understand the burner temperatures, right? And it keeps going upstream from that, though. What is it that makes heat tick? Why does it work the way that it does? And we keep going. So coherence and incoherence. And why I was crying was because fragmented systems. We've been living inside of fragmented systems. I was talking about it in the video at the campfire. People who have played by the rules and done what the system says, and they go and memorize it in a book. And then they're the ones who diagnose mental health crises, and they're the ones who diagnose illness, and they're the ones who run the engineering factory. Meanwhile, how many of them have actually worked with the tools? Any of you engineers? Any of you actually mechanics? How many times have you had somebody tell you, well, this is how it's supposed to work? And you're like, I'm holding the wrench in my hand and I'm telling you that's not how it works. My body is invested in this. This is what's occurring. And you're like, yeah, but in the paper it says, right? Well, good for you and your paper. How about you get down here in the ditch and work with it? Same with therapy. Same with psychiatry. Not that having that level of understanding of symbol cannot be valuable, but it's entirely different. If you have not lived through the traumas, if you have not experienced them, look at my teeth, right? Because in the US we have luxury bones. You know that insurance doesn't cover some bones because they're luxury bones. How coherent is that? Not to mention how the rest of our health is so interrelated with our mouth, right? Doesn't help that I live someplace where we're underserved by dentists. So the insurance that I have would only cover a couple dentists in the area anyway. And because we're underserved and I missed an appointment, that 6% can be important. Though still, it all comes back to the system. If we didn't consider some bones luxury in the first place, I wouldn't be in the same situation. So, just checked on the dog. She's just a little bit lagging behind. why I brought up the teeth is because one time I saw a talk, like at a big dental event from the president of the American Dental Association. And this goes right back to the same thing. She's going on about how people with an abscess or with extreme dental problems don't need certain types of medication, don't need certain types of drugs. Like, it doesn't serve to give them any type of pain reliever. And then she went on to say, I've never had a cavity in my life. And I was like, oh, that's perfect. I love how you know because you read it in a book. Not to mention now, look, let's take that further. What happened? What happened to our country? What happened to our friends and our neighbors and our relatives as a result of pharmaceutical companies pushing drugs on the doctors, feeding them steak and lobster dinners, then doctors overprescribing pain medications, people becoming addicted and getting hurt, and then all of a sudden, it's like to make up for it, now they've made it so that people that those drugs actually would serve, you can't get them anymore, because now they've reacted to the opposite side. Now, yes, of course, I would much rather there just be a system where we deal with preventative care in the first place. And we don't have to leverage the same level of prosthetics to be able to manage pain, etc. And that's possible. That is indeed what our future holds for us. It's not the current state, though. That's disembodied knowledge. It's people who have no experience with it, but they're the experts. And when we live in fragmented systems like that, we're set up and we're incentivized to perform. You know, like, how many of you have ever had deep thoughts about spirituality? How many of you have had unique or different thoughts about silicon-based intelligence? How many of you have had unique, or what seems different from the mainstream, thoughts about what's possible for the world? And then how many of you have kept it to yourself because you don't want to be thought a woo-woo mofo? You don't want to be thought wacko. You don't want to be considered unhinged, right? Because what do we do to the people that step up and stand out and say, hey, there's a better vision. There's something more that can occur for all of us right now. There's a different way of organizing it. What have we historically done to those people? Oh, don't you dare, right? What happened to Jesus? Whether you take that story literally or not, what happened to Jesus? What happened to JFK? What happened to Martin Luther King Jr.? What happened to Gandhi? Hell, even John Lennon. Even though I guess that had more to do with jealousy and a different type of psychosis, which again, we get what the system delivers. A system of manufactured scarcity. A system where knowledge is allegedly in a book, not in your lived experience, not in your body, not in what you can perceive in your day-to-day relations. Some of the most brilliant system scientists I've ever known are single moms and Tom the mechanic welder, right? He'll tell you what a system is doing because he knows it. He knows it in his blood. He knows it in his bones. You can read 1,000 books and you're not going to know that. Makes me think of the quote, and the meek shall inherit the earth, right? Because right now we have power structures that are disembodied. We have authority structures that are disembodied. It's all performative. And it's trained us to perform. Instead of being able to initiate, modulate, and regulate, stabilize on our own, many people are overrun with hypervigilance and pleasure seeking and no diffusive crest, no GABAergic containment, no slowing down. They don't have their own internal brake pedal. So then what do we do? We form relationships and we look for the stabilization. We look for the regulation from our partner. If not from a partner in an interpersonal relationship, we look for the regulation from the church. We look for it from the government. But they're just a bunch of people trying to figure shit out on their own too. And many of them have just been really, really good at performing. They haven't been in the ditches. They haven't experienced the pain. They don't know what they're talking about. And don't get me wrong, I'm not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I believe that genius is inherent. I truly do. Though when we've been incentivized to wear a mask, to pretend to be something that we're not, to hide what we actually really think, to hide how we actually feel, to perform for authority structures, to get the prize, we forget who we are. We've forgotten who we are. One of my best friends, it was my best friend since I was 14. And then she got married. I think we were 21. Yeah, I think we were 21 when she started dating this guy. And then they were married, and then he was in the military, served in Iraq and in Afghanistan. And then he was discharged from the service. It was unexpected. And his crew, I think just within a short time of him not being with his crew anymore, and he was a mechanic on their helicopter, and he was a door gunman and whatever, situations that I don't want anybody to have to be in. And his crew, they had a mechanical failure and it crashed and everybody died. Now, he probably would have had trauma regardless of that happening, but then he had survivor's guilt and remorse. And I don't think that any of us knew how deep it went. I'm moving this. We're going up here. I think we are. Can I do that? Yeah. Hi. Well, in 2021, I guess it had just gotten so bad. And I think it was like it had all shifted so slowly and so consistently. Like my best friend, she was on the verge of getting a divorce, but she took a vacation with her sister, her niece, and then her 2 kids were pretty young. While she was gone, like I call him my best friend-in-law, he did something pretty horrendous. He assaulted a young woman, he assaulted a girl. Softening bullshit language, say a young woman. He assaulted her. And then when she came to her senses to tell, I don't know, he thought maybe he was going to be able to convince her to be quiet about it or whatever. And he wasn't all there. This is hard. This is really difficult. It's difficult to balance it. Like the person that I love, the person that I knew for years, with that act. And so the police got involved, and the police went and questioned him at work. And then my friend called me. She couldn't get a hold of him. And she said, hey, go by the house, right? He's not answering my calls. Like, if you're willing to do that, you do whatever you feel safe with. And I went, and I found his goodbye forever note. I brought it to the police, and then I went out with my drones, and I flew them over Lake Superior looking for him. I flew them over, we're in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. I flew them over cliff faces. I attempted to figure out, where would he do this? What would he do? I didn't want him to die, as horrendous as all of it was. I didn't want him to die. They called the search off after like a couple weeks. And then just after that, family was out boating. They were out on Lake Superior, and they discovered his bloated body. He had tied weights around himself, dumbbells, anchors, capsized his kayak. And that's the cost of living in fragmented, incoherent systems. Nobody can outperform the system. We get what the system delivers. And we can have a system that works for everybody. I'm not the only one who knows that. Some of the most brilliant system scientists of the last 100 years have drawn the blueprints for us, and they've laid it all out. Some of the most brilliant physicists have laid it all out. Maxwell, Schrodinger, Mandelbrot, Prigogine, Buckminster Fuller, W. Edwards Deming, Ken Wilber, Claire Graves, Walter Russell, Jacques Fresco. Boy, you know what it takes? It takes being willing to step outside of the performance. It takes being willing to risk that somebody's going to think you're fucking crazy. Because you know what the price is when we do not let our own essence shine? It's that girl. It's my best friend's husband, the father of her children. It's those children growing up without a dad. It's the millions and millions and millions of people in the United States right now who don't have a house because some dumb fuck bought an extra fucking investment. No, look, I want to blame them. I want to blame them. You see how simple it is to go to blame? And it's not even them. They're doing what the system rewards. It's what the system rewards. And the system is designed by us. So at what point will the price be too high such that you're finally willing to choose something different? Because I tell you, I'm fucking choosing different. I am so devoted. And I'm not going to stop. Because we deserve better. We can have it, and we will have it. And it is awakening right now. I love you. The recursion holds.